Welcome today to the Executive MBA and Fully Employed MBA Experience as a Parent event. Today is a very special event because we're really going to be talking about all of the factors I'm sure that you guys are considering for those of us joining when you think about pursuing an MBA. And we know how big of a decision this is, especially when you are a current parent or you are thinking about becoming a parent in the program. And so that's what today's specific event is about. Just going to advance my slide here. So today your hosts are going to be myself. I'm Shannon. I work on the admissions team for the Executive MBA program, and I'm joined today by Christy as well. She is the admissions director for the FEMBA program. And today's event really is focused on being able to talk about this specific part of being a parent in the program. So this is not a typical admissions event where we're going to talk about the curriculum or the electives you can take and the community and the application process. We do have those types of events, and Vanessa on our team is going to put the link to those types of events in the calendar in the chat right now for you to attend. And also I welcome you to write down Christy and my information to reach out if you would like to have a one-on-one. Just one other housekeeping rule before we get started is that we are recording this event and it will be sent out afterwards if for some reason you have to leave early or you want to go back and review some of the material. Slides, there we go. So we are going to just quickly for the first few minutes talk a little bit about the differences between the EMBA and FEMBA program, just since some of you joining today may still be deciding which program is best for you. This is a lot of information to digest, but the key thing I want you to understand is at Anderson, whether you go through the Fully Employed program or the Executive MBA program, all of the curriculum that you receive, as well as the faculty, the access you have to electives, the access you have to getting involved at Anderson really is shared across both programs. It really comes down to making sure you're in the program with people who are your peers, who are going to be able to challenge you and are at a similar level in their career. So the key thing I want to point out is that the Fully Employed MBA program, on average, students have 7 years of work experience, under 5 years of management, whereas the EMBA program is for people who are a bit more senior in their career, average 14 years of work experience and over 5 years of management, typically around 10 years. We do define management, as you can see, as people or projects, but if you're unclear again where you fit, please reach out to Christy and I, and we are happy to coach you through that. The other elements is both programs, and we're going to dive a bit deeper into this, but both programs have flexible schedule options, multiple to choose from. Because for some of you, being on campus more or being away from your children might actually be better for your learning environment. And for others, actually getting to spend more time at home and having a more flexible offering to interact with the school may be better for you. So we want to walk you through those options as well. And both programs are similar in length as well. The FEMBA program is slightly longer because there are more required electives, so it's slightly longer for that reason, but otherwise a lot of similarities. These are just a few of the differences. So jumping in a little bit more, I feel like the schedule options is probably one thing that's top of mind for many of you. How am I going to fit this in? So the EMBA program, just to give you again a sense, is average age of 37. Half of our EMBA students have children when they're in the program. And the 3 schedule options briefly is, and this is for when we return to campus or when we're on remote, for since some of you may decide even this fall that we plan to have an in-person option, you also will have the option to be remote if for some reason you don't feel comfortable coming to campus. So either you can log on every other weekend or come to campus every other weekend, Friday nights starting at 4 p.m. through 9 p.m. and all day Saturday. That's the bi-weekly schedule every other weekend. We also then have the monthly. I'll get to the bi-weekly blend in a minute. We also have the monthly where it's that same schedule Friday, 4 till 9 and all day Saturday, but you only come once a month. And then there's online on-demand videos that you can watch at your own pace to review the material in a hybrid format, to review the lecture material. And then the bi-weekly blended is something new we're offering. We launched this last year, which actually you only come to campus 1 weekend a month, like the monthlies, but you have the option, or you have the, instead of having the online videos in between, you actually log on to a Zoom session for that alternating weekend so that you still see your classmates every other weekend and have that responsibility. So I'm going to pass it over to Christy to talk about some of the FEMBA options.
Okay, thanks, Shannon. Hi, everyone. So great to see you all joining us here today. So just want to go over a few Fully Employed MBA program stats. As you can see, it's a slightly different average age. So it's 30 for FEMBA, and 1 out of 10 FEMBA students have children. So this is probably directly related to the average age. Like the Executive MBA program, we also offer 3 schedule options. Under normal circumstances, FEMBA students would have the option to either come to campus Tuesday and Thursday evenings, so every week, Tuesday, Thursday evening, or they could choose to do all day Saturday on campus. So that would be like a 9:30 to 5:15 p.m. Schedule option. And the third option would be the hybrid schedule option, also known as the monthly schedule option, which is a blend of on-campus courses and online. So that schedule option would only require you to come to campus 1 weekend per month on a Saturday and Sunday. And then during the week, there is an online lecture component that is it's asynchronous. And so basically it's pre-recorded and you watch it on your own time during the week. So right now, as Shannon was mentioning, due to the pandemic, we are fully online currently. And also this fall, if we are able to go back to campus, we're still going to give people the option to do remote learning if they don't feel comfortable coming to campus yet. Okay, next slide. So as a UCLA student, you get access to several campus-wide and UCLA Anderson specific resources, specifically for parents. So I just wanted to touch on a few of them. As for the UCLA campus-wide resources, we have UCLA Recreation Youth Programs. We have the UCLA Health Mother-Infant Support Group. And we also have the Bruin Resource Center, which actually has a program for students with dependents, which is designed to just support current students who have children. And so as a student, of course, you have access to these. There may be some slight changes to the format due to the pandemic right now, but in general, these are some really great ways to just expand your community of other parents at UCLA. Now, specifically at UCLA Anderson, FEMBA students can join the Joint Ventures Club, which is for UCLA Anderson partners and families. It's a great way to just build community, get to know other FEMBA full-time executive MBA students who have partners, have children. They do a lot of fun activities together, days at Disneyland, hikes. So it's just really fun and just a really supportive group. And then aside from that, we do have some really great events that both programs, EMBA and FEMBA, plan throughout the year that include family. So one of them is Palooza, which has been one of our biggest, most attended events every year. And it's a way for alumni and current students to connect and for families to come along as well. There's a lot of kid-friendly activities and it's just a really fun outdoor festival. So just wanted to mention those great resources that you'd be able to tap into. And we do have, if you are considering applying for this fall, we do have one more application round for each of the programs. For the Executive MBA program, the final application date would be May 1st, 2021. So if you apply by that date, you would be considered for the incoming class of, in the fall, this fall. For the Fully Employed MBA program, our round 3 application date is April 6th. So again, if you do have any questions about the application process, the requirements, feel free to follow up with us after today's event, and we are happy to chat and discuss your candidacy. All right, so before I introduce Shannon back and the panelists, I just wanted to announce that we will be using Slido to have you all submit questions for our panelists today. Shannon's going to be kicking it off with her own questions for the panel, and then we'll be opening it up to all of you. So I'm actually going to go ahead and post a direct link to Slido, which is easier. So if you click on the link that I just put in the chat box, you'll be able to enter questions. You'll be able to upvote other questions that you'd also like to see answered. And I'll also have the website and the code in the next slide as well. So, okay, Shannon, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks so much, Christy. Yeah, Slido we found is a really cool way to be able to say, oh, wait, I have that question too. So you, again, upvote it. I'll just start out with a couple of questions, but definitely we want to hear what's top of mind for all of you who are prospectives that are joining. So I'd love to welcome, it's so good to see our 4 panelists here that we have with us today. We have a mix of people who are from the EMBA and FEMBA program, as well as alumni and current student. Tim is representing as our dad and our current student, so I'm glad to have him here as well. And basically, I'd love to start off first. I want to start off by showing this is the reality, right? Like this is the parents that are on the panel today. I feel like this is more an accurate, obviously we want to hear about everyone's professional background, but this is what we're here to talk about today, these beautiful families and how you all achieved such greatness of getting your MBA while also managing your professional and personal commitments as well. So I feel like this slide was most appropriate to represent today. So I'm going to ask each one of our panelists today, I'll go ahead and put back up this as well, and then we'll dive into each one. But I'm going to ask you each to just give an introduction on yourself. I think it's really important to understand your professional and personal background a bit, including your children. And then how, when you decided to get an MBA specifically, how did your family commitments, considering the time commitments and the financial commitments, play into your decision to get an MBA at the time that you did? And why was Anderson part of your decision? So Tim, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tim Arnold. I'm an entrepreneur and VC advisor. Some things have transpired since I started the program. So it's kind of a title that the Hemisphere Design and Manufacturing is a company I sold while during the program as well. And I've got a wife and 4 daughters. They range between 8 and 13 years old. And it's in the fun times, we're riding mountain bikes and skateboarding and stuff like that together. So that's, personal struggle too, is like, I got to cut out some playtime with my kids. One of the things that brought me to the MBA program is I realized the well of knowledge was kind of drying up around me. My peers, my industry, I found myself really looking for more people to surround myself with that did different things, had different perspectives, but also were, motivating themselves and wanting to grow. And my world was feeling pretty stagnant around me. And so I decided, it was time to go the academic route and go back to school at 40 years old. A little bit apprehensive about that. Just, can you do it? Should you do it? And the first thing to do was, talk to my family, because I knew it was going to be quite a bit of work, and figuring out what the impact was on them, and everybody was very supportive, but I was concerned that they weren't realizing the magnitude of it, right? And like, I was just going to evaporate. I was trying to prepare myself for worst case scenario. They're just like, yeah, Dad, happy to, whatever we need to do, we're there. Just as long as we can still do fun stuff on the weekends. And so that kind of put something in the back of my mind is, all right, make sure you're prioritizing, and just like you guys do with regular lives, with your school life, is calendar. And it seems kind of a little bit an emotional detachment when you calendar time with your kids, but it's critical because the world has to operate around those times. So I would say that that is very important going into it, and it's a good way to preserve those times. What brought me to Anderson was I looked at a few schools, and one of our local schools, the application process was extremely binary, and trying to figure out like how can you put together a group of a good cohort without knowing the people. And it's just put in your application, the computer will tell us if you fit, and we'll call you back later. That one I didn't even go through with. Another one, local school was good, but it didn't quite have the reputation. There wasn't the enthusiasm with the alumni that I talked to. So I ended up kind of passing on that one. I got accepted, and it was ultimately, the reputation of Anderson, but the admissions team. The time that they spend, the events that they put on, and it's not just because they're on this call here, but it was a true investment. And there's a lot of buzz about diversity and inclusion and all that, but that is also sometimes get lost. Like there's really a diverse group of people here, by individuals, not just by race, religion, or industries. It is just, it's overwhelming how good of a job they did putting that group together. So bar none, that was that expectation was met, and even to a point where I felt like I have to bring my best self here because they did their part. Now I better be showing up and giving everything I can back to my community. So ultimately that's what brought me to Anderson, and it has not failed. And current student in the pandemic, and there's a lot of concerns like, oh, it's just what's the difference between this and Phoenix Online? And I can tell you night and day, our people are still there. In fact, I think it actually made us do what we all should have been doing all along, was reaching out outside of your classroom hours, connecting. You can't stand on the sidelines waiting for the world to come back around to you. Things are going to be different. And what a great way to navigate something like this with 100 plus, people with similar minds, similar ambitions. You couldn't ask for a better worst case scenario. And so for that, I do feel really, really fortunate that I did go to Anderson when I did, and it was the right time.
Thanks so much, Tim. Meha, I'll throw it over to you. FEMBA 2019, right?
Yes, thanks, Jen. Great to be here, everyone. So my story, I started out FEMBA fall of 2016. That time I was actually recently married, speaking of family, knew I wanted to have a family one day. That time I was also just started working at Amgen, where I still am today. Today I'm the Director of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging for commercial operations. So when I started, I knew I wanted to get out of FEMBA a stronger background in, frankly, business and management, coming at an engineering degree in undergrad. But also having recently moved to the LA area, I really wanted to build my community. And because of that, I really appreciate, I remember in the admissions time, the flexibility of when you'd have either Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday, or even the flex. I started out in the Tuesday, Thursday. Halfway through core, I got pregnant. And that's when I, again, reflecting on the flexibility that UCLA has, that's when I decided to switch to Saturday classes. Clearly I couldn't be staying up late on cold brew coffee when I was, shouldn't be drinking that much caffeine when you're pregnant, right? On Tuesday, Thursday nights. So switch to Saturdays, and I know I'm interweaving a bit of my story, but also what I appreciated about my classmates, and so reflecting back on my experience, is that when you have your core team, and kind of Tim, what you were saying, frankly, in the old world when it was all in person, you really just frankly stuck to your core team, right? So I only knew my classmates in my Tuesday, Thursday cohort, but then switching to Saturdays, I love that I got exposed to more people in my class, but at the same time, I was literally welcomed with open arms. Like there was nothing like, oh, well, you're from section 4 and here we're section 2, so it was just a very great blend, and I love that I chose a school for that great culture that we have. So my first baby was born halfway through core, 2018. Her name is Zoya. She's 3 years old now. And going back to the flexibility, that when I was on maternity leave, I actually just for that quarter switched to flex. So I took one class. I just felt like I wanted to. Nithya, you're actually my motivation that I could take a class on maternity leave. And so I just went in just twice for an 8 hours, but also with the flexibility of the professors, I didn't go to my first flex class because I was about to give birth about a few days after that, right? So that's what I loved with FEMBA, that I felt like there were no barriers. If I wanted to take a class on maternity leave, I wanted to have a baby at this time, I could do it. And I knew I was well supported to do it. just to close out my story, so then I was saying third year, last quarter again, I got pregnant again. So when I actually gave the graduation speech for a class, and I was 5 months pregnant, but that also goes to show that I felt so well supported that I knew I could just complete my degree with now a second kid.
Awesome, thanks, Meha. Meghan, if you can go next.
Sure. So my name is Meghan Basarab. I'm the director of business management right now at Northrop Grumman. So aerospace defense company. Most of you probably are familiar with it. I've been there for a long time, about 17 years now. And Tim, kind of similar to your story, you know, the reason I started to pursue my MBA, I always knew I wanted to pursue a formal, you know, business education advanced degree at some point. My undergraduate degree is an arts and science degree. A lot of people, they're like, wow, how'd you get into finance? I'm like, I actually, in undergrad, literally picked the degree that had the least amount of math. That was how I picked my undergraduate degree, but then somehow fell in love with numbers throughout my professional kind of journey, and always wanted to, you know, beef up that experience with the education. And to me, you know, UCLA has always had a tremendous reputation, but I will also say that selfishly, I'm a lifelong die-hard Notre Dame fan, and there was just really two options for me in Southern California, and really there was only one. We won't name that other school, but you know, for me, it was like, okay, I couldn't quite get to Notre Dame. My undergraduate degree is actually from a small private school in San Diego, but I felt like UCLA was, you know, right there and definitely a top school. That was kind of what initially drew me to the program. But then I will also say the flexibility, and the thing that really appealed to me was the board of directors approach for small groups. So that's something still to this day that really stuck with me. You know, aspirationally, I'd love to position myself one day to ultimately be on a board. And I really appreciated that diversity of thought that went into just the way that Anderson pulls together the groups. And I will say that was so accurate and such a reflection in my experience through my groups. My very first group, I mean, we were so different, but in such good ways. So I felt like you really learned so much from your small groups. And I can't remember if it was Meha or Tim that said this, but I remember my first week of Leadership Foundations, I was so inspired, but I also felt like I was the least accomplished person there by like a long shot. So I remember there were so many people with multiple degrees, and they were and it was such a tremendous group of people that they pulled together. I kind of found myself thinking, how did I get picked to be in this program? But don't tell anyone, because I'm here and I'm very happy about that. So it's all good. But no, it's just, and at the end of that first week, and then going into the program, I just remember thinking, wow, I mean, we had about 150 between the two cohorts. I was part of the monthly cohort, and it was about 150 people of the most supportive people, and so diverse. And you know, really made me appreciate, as somebody who had spent a career at one company, see how really business is business and problems are problems, and they cross lots of industry boundaries and different points in your career. And really, while I felt like I had snuck into the program, I did bring a lot to the program as well. And though I will tell you, my very first quarter was statistics, and I about cried through that course, but it's okay. You know, I got there, and then when I got to accounting, I was feeling really strong. So when they tell you everybody brings strengths and you have to lean on folks, I just didn't know I was going to feel like that the first quarter, but I made it through, and that was all good. So I can't say enough wonderful things about Anderson, about, you know, the experience. From a personal standpoint, at the time I applied, I have 3 boys now. I had 2 boys at the time. So my boys today are 7 months old. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. So I'm class of 2019 too, Meha. So and I was like, oh, you were the speaker for the FEMBA program at graduation. I was like, I remember. So very cool. It seems like a million years ago, but you know, what I would say is that you have to have a good team no matter what you do in your life. And so for me, it was always about talking to my husband. For me, with, you know, young kids, my mother is a critical part. We are very lucky. She is Nana, literally down the block. She lives 1 block away. She is our glue. My mother-in-law was a huge supporter. But I will say there is the conversation, and then there is reality. So, you know, there's a conversation you have to get everybody on the same page. And then there's the reality that you are, you know, not as available at all, you know, as you used to be. But the other thing that I would say is you can do anything for a defined period of time. You just have to set the expectations and communicate with your family. I'm very lucky in that I have a wonderful team, my personal team and my professional team at the time as well. So I would say, as much as it is about your family, it is also about your professional support, because you are all candidates here because you are looking to position yourself. You are excelling today. You're looking to position yourself for that next role, and making sure you've got the right support professionally and personally is critical. So I was joking with my husband just before this call. I said, they're asking why I was successful. And I asked, I thought maybe you should just join. So, and at any rate, but, it is a group effort, and, but it's an amazing gift that you give yourself through Anderson and through education. And so I'm very jealous of all of you who are just starting this journey, because it was a tremendous gift. And I'm so grateful that I have it forever. So thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Megan. And I love how as I'm listening to your stories, and Nithya, I can't wait for you to add, like there's similarities and then there's differences in your journey as well. And I hope everyone who's listening can relate to something they're hearing. So Nithya, please share your story.
Thanks, Shannon. Sure. Meha, you would agree with me. It's like been 2 years since we graduated, but still the muscle memory and the pressure of assignments and deadlines is like so fresh in our heart here. Morning, ladies and gentlemen, guys and girls. My name is Nithya, and I'm a proud mother of 2 kids. Sana, a girl who's 10 years old, and Mithran, boy, 4.5. So we call Mithran like my MBA baby, because I just delivered him like second week after our first semester started. The story is like pretty dramatic though. The day I gave my interview and discussion with like the FEMBA for my recruitment, that evening I got to know that I am pregnant with my second child. And I was like, wow, this is gonna be a tough call now. Like, should I wait for the results, or should I just say, no, I'm not going to take this MBA thing, knowing this pregnancy is on its way. But then, as Meghan was mentioning, and Meha was also briefly mentioning, it's all about the support system, right? My husband said, if you think you can go for it, go for it. I'm all there for you. But like, there are people who also said, like, you are crazy to think about MBA with your second child, and just entering into MBA with a pregnancy is like super hard to think. I come from a sports background. I used to be a track and field. I kind of definitely brought in that fighting spirit into this particular thing. So I said, like, okay, knowing that you guys, like few of you are different in opinion, and knowing that I have my support system kind of ready, I want to take this chance. And if I had not taken this chance, I wouldn't be even sitting here in front of you explaining my experience and being successful and a little bit successful in what we did, right? On the education front, I'm a double master's. The first one was in software engineering, and then the second one, this MBA, specializing in tech management and entrepreneurship. On the professional side, I'm a software developer turned consultant turned product manager. So I'm right now a senior product manager with Farmers Insurance Group. And I was working with Accenture before this switch. I switched 2 jobs during my MBA program. On the personal front, as I told you, I have like passion for dance and fitness. And I kind of used this lockdown time to literally lose all the pregnancy fat and pounds that I gained from my MBA times. Founder of a nonprofit group that teaches fundamental concept of coding and programming to kids grade K to 5. So that's a bit about myself. Again, why MBA? Like as most of us have already touched upon, I wanted to change from my engineering to a business background. So I want to kind of expand my professional network and equip myself with all the tools and resources and kind of shape up my learning to get into the leadership role. And why MBA? With Anderson, again, this was the closest and the best option for me because I live in West LA, and I did not plan on doing a remote thing because like personally I spent like, if I have to spend this much money, let me spend it like learning in person and then like having the richness of the discussions, everything going on physically around, like a lot of great minds to discuss around, right? So that's why I felt like Anderson was my best choice. I did attend a couple of events like what you're doing now. I had attended a lunch program. I also attended in-campus programs. I had really good vibes. getting in there, and knowing that the resources are like, you're not compromised between your full-time MBA or FEMBA MBA. The teachers, the professors are the same, and you have access to all those case competitions, internships, and like recruitment and all those things. I felt Anderson was the best choice for me, living in LA. Rest of the event, we always can talk about like strategies and like some of the tips and tricks that we had, like getting into this program with this thing. But if I have to just term it in one word, it's like kind of a very satisfying pain, or like a very rewarding pressure. But like end of the day, it really worked out. And one of the great leadership skills is all about managing stress without compromising the quality, right? And we were all like perfect hands-on with like pregnancy or delivery, or with kids and family, full-time job and MBA program. That's a little bit about me, but we can always talk later. Over to you, Shannon.
Thanks so much, Nithya. Really appreciate that. So I think, I'm looking at what's kind of coming up on the Slido too. And I think one of the things, and I think, Tim, you started to touch on this, but maybe if you can expand a little more, really like, what does it get down to, like the day-to-day strategies? Meghan, you mentioned having a mom there and a supportive team, but I think, maybe for one of two of you to be able to really talk about those strategies that you use to really build this in, to make sure that you could like keep everything balancing. So Tim, if there's anything more that you want to kind of expand on there, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I would say it's very personal in the respect that nobody knows what they're doing the first quarter. Everybody's smashing their papers in their backpacks, trying to hurry to the next class. So it's an even playing field. And we all have to figure out like what our new study habits are and patterns. So I would say kind of set your expectations, set some scheduling, know that it's going to change and maybe you need more time and you can't wait to the last minute, or you need to do things earlier. You're going to get it wrong a whole lot right out of the gate. And at least that was kind of the consistency we had, as we're kind of talking to each other. How are you doing it? How are you doing it? Whether I'm doing it on handwritten notes or iPads, or only working at nights or only working during the mornings. You figure it out, but just kind of start adjusting and make it iterative, and it'll balance out in your life within a couple of months. Maybe you get right out of the gate, but just be prepared for that. Don't worry that you committed to something and this is how I'm going to do it, and try to stick with it. Change it for your life, make it adjust, make it adapt.
Great, thank you. Nithya, it sounded like you might actually had some specific strategies you wanted to highlight as well.
So as I said, like I kind of had an open talk with my family, and definitely set my expectations with my support system. So as I said, like I delivered my baby boy on 14th October 2016, which is a Friday, and I was doing all day Saturday class. So I had a C-section, so couldn't like move up for like 2-3 days. But then like the next Saturday, I was back in class the following Saturday. And as Meghan was mentioning, like we had our statistics as the first subject, and the other management course. So one thing, the first and best, it's not a strategy, it's kind of a mindset. I kind of prioritized what I was ready to give up, but what I was not willing to give up, right? So I was definitely not willing to give up on my grades and learnings and all those building the professional network. But what I was willing to give up was like, if I don't go for FEMBA Vegas, it's okay. If I don't go international trips, it's okay. If I miss a couple of happy hours, it's okay. But as long as I was able to give weightage to what I really feel is important, I think that's definitely kept going. One of the main items that I carried in my hospital bag was like laptop, and then like case papers and all those things. But it's not for bragging, but I did come up with a perfect score on the statistics paper, and an excellent grade on the second subject as well. That really set my morality as well high. That like, if the reason I'm saying that is like, if any of you are thinking that people without kids are like in an advantageous position than people with kids, it's definitely not at all the point. It's all about how you handle the pressure. And we also had like some of creative ways. I did have my mother and mother-in-law flew from India to support me with like cooking and chores and a little bit of those help. But we did have a creative way to kind of handle, like, every Saturday after my class, my husband used to drive my kid, leaving the little one at home. Obviously, he was too young. But Sana used to come join with me in the Anderson campus. So we used to have a little picnic after the class at the UCLA campus. So that way she used to like peek through my classes and talk to my friends. She was getting more involved. And she was also willing to cooperate with me, knowing that what I was learning in the campus, right? So the picnic really helped. And as Shannon was mentioning, I think Christy was mentioning it, FEMBA Palooza, like Meha's kids and our kids, like we have a nice celebration at the FEMBA Palooza. And in a couple of group study calls, we still have those kids like saying hello to my friends. That way, the core group that Meha was talking about, right? They also know what we are kind to undergo, like keep it real, keep it practical. So that way our support system was only getting stronger. And we would also be able to, obviously Anderson was so much flexible. Professors were like literally ready to adjust and accommodate us. So when I did all day Saturdays, when at times I was unable to attend the all day Saturday, I switched. If the professor was taking the same class on Tuesdays or Thursdays, so I would skip the Saturday class, rather take the Thursday class at those times and still kind of get the same professor, same syllabus and everything, right? So that was the most important thing that professors were willing to accommodate. And other than that, we moms used to discuss a lot in terms of like sharing our experiences, and that kind of also helped our build up our morale, and knowing that we are not all by ourselves. It's like um, it's the group that's always there, and we are in the similar boat. That also boosts up our spirit as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think those are all such good tactics. And one thing I'm hearing that Meghan and Meha, I'm wondering if you could comment on, and I think Nithya, actually you answered Maury on the slide I was asking about, like bringing your kids to campus and stuff. I think Nithya, that was really cool. You shared like, yeah, bringing them to the campus to see what it's like, where I am. You know, it's not just this, oh, mom and dad aren't here. It's, you know, to get to like see where you're being. I think that's really cool. But Meghan and Meha, you know, please feel free to add on that, you know, the topic I just asked about. But I'm wondering for you, if you could really give maybe one example of where you really felt supported by your classmates. I'm hearing a lot of, I mean, I know, you know, some great examples of support from the faculty, and that's great. But I know what I hear so much anecdotally is that, you know, your classmates are there to support you as well. And so I don't know if there's something that sticks out in your mind, a story of when maybe you felt really supported by your classmates and your community at Anderson as well. Meghan, if you want to start us off with that.
Sure. Well, I would say that, again, I felt like our classmates were phenomenal, and a lot of us did have kids, and it just kind of happened that my final group that I was with for over a year, really, by the time we picked our BCO project and everything, the way that we were always supportive of each other is we always just checked in to see, hey, you know, again, we all had kids, and so everybody worked, and so what worked for us was to set a time that at night where we would check in, and to set a cadence. And sometimes it was every day, and sometimes it was, you know, Mondays and Wednesdays or whatever kind of worked. Again, I was in the monthly program, so we were on campus once a month, but there was a lot of flexibility for when you met and how you got your group work done. But you know, it was really up to you to kind of to work through that. And so I think what always worked for us is, you know, that we met late, because that's, you know, kids are asleep, or hopefully, and you know, that's what made it work the best. But we had, so by the way, Nithya, I cannot imagine doing what you did. We actually had a gal in our cohort, her name is Shafali, who was kind of similar to you. I think she had a baby, like we had Leadership Foundations, she had the baby and then came back, and I remember being like, you're crazy. Like, I can't imagine doing that, but super kudos and human strength. But you know, we did have a lot of babies born in throughout our program. And so one of our classmates, his wife had a baby. And so, you know, I would say that what we always did was we just were a good team. And so if somebody was going to be gone for a period of time, or there was, time the person needed to take off, whatever it was for, whether it's kids, or you'll find classmates who have, parents or other, responsibilities that they have to take care of. Everybody was really good about just, I guess it's kind of simple. You communicate and you find a time that works best for you. And if it's not working, like, don't stress about it if you can't make the meeting, or, you got to shift it to a Saturday versus you've been tagging up. And Tim said that, don't keep beating your head against a drum if it's not working. Just communicate with your team and find, everybody's got stuff that's happening. And so folks are able to, I think, adjust. And so again, what ended up working for us was having a set time. It typically was kind of late. And one of the things, and you'll learn this like through Anderson, because Anderson's great about not just teaching you the academics, but teaching you some of these tricks to, check temperature with your team and make sure you guys are openly communicating. And I found it cheesy at first, but this worked. There was always somebody on our team that said, "How's everybody doing? What's your temperature?" And the funny thing was, we actually have a picture from our group at the end, and it's like, "What's your temp?" And it kind of became almost like a joke, but it was just like, "What's your temperature? Are you guys doing okay?" And because we don't know what's going on in our lives, and if you had a kid who had a mental breakdown right before you're getting on a call, or maybe you had a really whatever going on at work, and so it helps to understand a mindsets as you come into these group discussions, and as you work together. So I wish I had one big aha moment, but it's just when I think about the groups that I was part of, and especially my final group, it was really just that flexibility and understanding, no matter what was going on in your life, to make sure that we were all supported. And sometimes you were picking up the slack for your teammate, but they were picking it up, another time for you. And as long as you kind of got that, everybody was very appreciative. So that's pretty simple.
Yeah, Megan, thank you for sharing that. Meha, do you have, I know you said when you switched sections, you were like so overwhelmed by the warmth to welcome you, but
Yes.
anything come to mind for you?
Yeah, thanks, Jen. And for all of those, that thing about FEMBA, and I'd say from the perspective of who don't currently have kids right now, right? So I came in without having any kids. Also building off of Megan's point on communication. Communication is the right word, and also reflecting on, it's also on you as if you become a parent during FEMBA, to figure out how to adjust your own expectations and communicate that to your peers, right? So Shannon, yeah, we spoke about the example of switching cohorts, but then also, I'll give a specific example. So, again, I had baby halfway through after a year and a half in the program. And before that, I was very social, right? I would go out and happy hour and stuff like that. And I realized I needed to now let my friends know what I could and couldn't be there for, and be okay with that. But then also not get frustrated, as you saw the statistics, right? I mean, most people don't have kids in FEMBA, not think that, oh, no one gets me anymore because they're not parents, and and I'm a parent now. Instead, and again, specific example, so GAP, right? So GAP is a global access program, the major project that you have a client, sometimes international client. So I remember I was a few months into being a mom and still breastfeeding my baby. And it was a weekend that we're spending on campus, and our client had flown in from Chile. I was working from a client in Santiago. And with my team, basically we're in the room all day with your client, right? Mapping out what you're going to do, mapping out the strategy. And I was still breastfeeding. I had to pop in and out because it's a mother's room on campus, so I could pump. And I knew that my team wouldn't feel like I was letting them down, because I was really clear about, this is important to me, guys, you know it. I'm just going to step out to pump and then fill me in. And that's how we would, it just took a little bit more planning, right? Because I happened to be facilitating the meeting that day, but they knew, and we really stepped up for each other because they knew that this is important to me. And I really felt a sense of belonging on the team once I realized I had to communicate what I want. They'll get it, fine. They don't know what breastfeeding is about, they don't know what kids are, they don't know what pumping, but they will still understand because they know it's important to me and they care.
Thank you, Meha, for sharing that. Well, I'm going to head it over to Christy. I've asked a lot of my questions that I think I hear often, but now I want to get to the Slido and let Christy go ahead and share some of those questions. And please, those that weren't here at the beginning, if you have questions, add them to Slido. And Christy, I'll hand that over to you.
Perfect, thank you. And I just posted the Slido link again. So in case you missed it earlier, you can go ahead and submit questions there. Okay, so we have a pretty popular question posted up here from Stephen. Outside of the scheduled class time, how often did you need to meet with your cohorts to work on homework / projects? Was it less or more than you anticipated? And I think it would be good to get a EMBA and a FEMBA perspective. So maybe we can start with Tim.
Yeah, probably about what I thought, because we were very fortunate to have, again, good people that are around. You set a goal, you set your itineraries, you knock it out, and you don't need to keep kind of meeting in between. We just set like a 1-2 standard. So if I was responsible for somebody, I knew who else on the team was my 2, and we could take care of that offline. So you're not trying to coordinate, 5 people's schedules at once. So once a week is plenty sufficient. With our BCO project, the capstone project, that's once a week, and you can keep things to an hour, 90 minutes maximum. But having your itinerary and kind of just setting that structure, it won't drag on and on and on. It's very, very, very manageable.
Mm-hmm. Great. Nithya?
So when I did all day Saturday, so we had like time after our class. So our core team kind of met immediately in the campus itself to kind of prepare for assignments for the next week. So that's kind of like one call less, right? So we already did the preparation on what we wanted to do. And then we usually have group calls in the night on an agreed time, typically Tuesday, to kind of understand where we are with the assignments, and then on a Thursday, if needed be, in terms of like if you are in the right shape to submit the assignment. So I would say 2 30-minute call, or like it just depends, but on an average we used to have like 2 30 minutes call, like more of a statistic and kind of a discussion, but more of the planning, everything happened during the campus, it's in the campus itself after the class.
Awesome, great. Thanks for sharing. Let's see here. Here's a question that I've actually heard too before from prospective students. For those of you who were in the, for those of you who were in the EMBA program and commuted from out of town, how often did you bring your partner or family with you? Do you recommend it? And I guess this could go for FEMBA too, EMBA, FEMBA, if any of you brought family or partners on the weekends, if they were traveling.
I'm a EMBA monthly, but I live 40 minutes from campus. So I can just tell you what my out of town cohort members did. It was pretty rare that we saw their spouses unless they're going to spend the weekend somewhere down south. It wasn't that it wasn't encouraged, but you are pretty busy and you squeeze in a few hours, to have a glass of wine or beer or something like that. So I think it would be kind of lonely. I know my spouse would come down sometime just to hang out like a couple hours in some room service, but you are busy. And when you're on campus, you are very, very busy.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I'm EMBA monthly, but I'm similar to Tim. I live in Redondo Beach. So, I wasn't exactly commuting, though sometimes with traffic pre-COVID, I would say that's almost like another lifetime away, but that's another thing. But I will say same thing. We had people come, we had a gal from China. We had a couple people from Canada. We had some folks from Seattle. So I know that's one of the really neat things is you get all these different perspectives. And but you are really busy. It is fun though, because I think at least for our tenure, there were a couple of events where they encourage you to bring your families or your significant others. And so that's really fun because it's like you've gotten to know these people. And it's kind of fun too when you're married and you've got kids, because you're like, so I don't know about all of you, but I'm so used to being like Connor or Finnegan's mom or Jesse's wife, and so now I've got my own professional, of course, career too, but it was kind of neat to just be Meghan for a change. But then it's so fun to, meet these significant others. And I think even like my husband was kind of like, all these people know who I am. I'm like, well, yeah, because I talk about you all the time and you already feel like you know them. And there were some that would always show up like on Saturday nights. We spent a lot of time at the bar at the Luskin. So, after class and stuff. And so there were folks that you got to know there. So I definitely think, it's people, you bring your whole self. And so if you're a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, whatever, it's always neat, I think, when you get to share that. And one of the things I appreciated is that my cohort always was really like welcoming of, whenever my kids were there or my husband was there. But to Tim's point, you are really busy. And so I think it's great if you just are intentional about when you bring them so that they're not, having their expectations are not, missed or whatnot. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. let's see, another question for you all. So I know you kind of touched upon this earlier, but what communication with your spouse and children worked well during your on-site weekends? What didn't work? Any learning lessons to share? So we can, Meha, do you have anything to share?
Yeah, so building off of, actually, I really feel like I didn't adequately give justice to my support system, because I don't want it to seem like, you can do it all. You really should reach out to see in your village who you can support. I had my in-laws for a bit from India, also visiting for a couple months. And I would say what didn't work, Christy, because I think this is something more interesting. So Saturdays, I would just go to class, and I feel like I just disappeared, so it's from 9 to 5. Sometimes, like Nithya said, we'd hang out after class afterwards. And I'll be real with you all. It actually feel like it created a bit of a divide with my spouse, because I think, oh, my spouse is fine, my husband's fine, he's with his parents and our kid is there, he's good. But then it almost just separated us a little bit, just emotionally, because it was like, oh, I don't need him, he's good, he doesn't need me. So I'd actually say, although if you have the support system and you do focus on your classwork, they say it, right? Especially if those of you that are not parents yet or going to be parents, you really need to have those date nights, or even those conversations that are just the two of you, especially when you have this third thing outside of family, outside of work, you have this goal, you really do need to invest in your spouse, no matter what you have.
Yeah, appreciate you sharing that. That's a great point. Tim?
I was to say, when you go to a different country, you feel like you're in a whole nother world, and the rest of the world didn't follow you. That's what happens when you're on campus. So you do have to be conscious of that. And if you want to check in, make sure you set an alarm, because you'll blank and it's time to go back to class and stuff. So you are living somewhere else, even if you're 5 miles away.
Great points. Let's see. Did any of you go on any of the international trips? I know it was brought up earlier. Oh, Meghan, did you bring family? Did you bring or a partner? And how did that go? Do you recommend it?
Oh my gosh, amazing. So yes, I do. And especially, again, so I go back to the whole, we've been known as, for me, I was as a mom or as a wife. And now that is one where I would say I'm going to be a little selfish. Don't bring your kids, bring your spouse. Because so we went to South America, and we tacked on a trip at the beginning with a smaller group of folks. So we went to Brazil, to Rio, and then we were in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and it was phenomenal. And so I will say, you are busy, but it is one of the best experiences. I wish I had done more. It's hard. It's compounded, hard. Actually, we had a couple that went on the Israel trip, and there was a baby born out of that. So we had a little UCLA baby as a result of that. No, but I highly, highly encourage you guys, once, this COVID stuff relaxes and you're able to travel, the experiences you get in country are phenomenal. And it is so, you can bring your spouse with you on a lot of things. Anderson is great about that. And that is something that, my husband and I still talk about what a life experience that was. And to be just the two of us, it's almost like a little honeymoon, 10 years in, but it was great. So go take advantage of those opportunities. The professors are phenomenal. The way that they balance it with, going to real businesses, and it was just wonderful. And I just loved South America. So it was, yes, go, bring your spouse, don't bring your kids. That's my opinion. So
good advice.
Yeah.
Just in case you all aren't familiar with our optional, or for EMBA, it's actually required under normal circumstances to do one of the global immersion travel abroad electives. So for FEMBA, it's an option. So you can take up to 2 of these international electives towards credit for your MBA. Did anybody else travel, Nithya?
I did not do an international travel, but I did for my BCO, I was not doing GAP, but for the primary research of my BCO project, 2 of our, including me, we went to Atlanta from here. It was just 4 days, but as Meghan was pointing out, I did not bring my husband or kids along, because I wanted that me time, right? I wanted to spend that 4 days exclusively focusing on what I need to do, while my husband was trying to help me take care of the kids back home. So I kind of, maybe I would say, yeah, definitely taking husband would have been a better choice if I had to, but I couldn't do it because I had to take care of kids back at home. But regardless, any trip is like definitely worthy of an experience. Also, like after 4 days, like the kids were so attached to me than ever before. It's like, oh, we didn't see you for 4 days, and like the rest of the 2 days, like 3 days, we were just like bonding around, and that kind of gives a nice gap from our nice break from the family too, and then focus on the professional things and then come back.
Yeah, and just to add, actually, a combination of Nithya and Meghan. So I spent a week in Tel Aviv for a class, and I got a few credits out of that too. I should have brought my husband; it would have been really fun. But also to Nithya's point, it almost like it was me time because I really fully immersed myself. I feel like in getting to know my local Israeli classmates, which is a whole nother level, right? I really had to push myself out of comfort zone because I didn't know anyone there. Couldn't rely on my social circle with my spouse there. So, and I'm still actually in touch with some people a few years later since then. So it's great.
Awesome. Sounds amazing. Okay, well, unfortunately, we are out of time. It is 12:57, so we're going to have to wrap up. I know that there were a few questions we weren't able to address, but if anybody would like to just follow up with us and send those questions to us, we can make sure to get back to you. Yeah, and then Shannon, do you want, we're going to be sending out an email after this event. So Shannon and I will be sending you some extra links to upcoming events, as well as our contact information if you would like to schedule a one-on-one appointment to discuss your candidacy. But we just are so thankful to our panel, first of all, for being here today, especially having children and managing work at the same time. So really appreciate your time, and thank you all for coming today and learning from our awesome panel today about FEMBA and EMBA for parents.
And feel free to reach out to me directly, anybody on LinkedIn. Do they have our LinkedIn's or anything like that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We're going to be providing
Yes, feel free
that.
to find us.
Yeah, we'll be
Awesome.
providing that in the email, the follow-up emails.
And good luck to everybody. I'm jealous.
Good luck.
Bye,
you
everyone.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Best wishes. Bye.